Hello and welcome back to Substream News. Now before we run into our first video, I'd like to ask you to jog on down to the subscribe button and give it a click, because growing this channel is a marathon, not a sprint. And if my clues weren't clear, the first story today is all about running. Now for some, running is a pleasure. It's as natural as eating, sleeping or breathing, but for some others it's a hellish nightmare where every step is one full of pain. So, do you think you were born to run or not? Well, scientists say that the answer actually lies within your genes. So running is very popular globally, probably because of the low access or barrier to entry. You just need to run. Some good shoes might help, but the number of runners globally increases every year. In fact, Park Run said that 8.5 million new people started running on their app last year. And around the world, we've got new marathon events with more entrants every time. So running is very popular. But what do your genes have to do with it? Well, scientists have discovered and been testing this theory for quite a while about something called the speed gene, and it's the ACTN3 gene, which is alpha-actinin 3. So what can I tell you about this? There are about 200 genetic variations that influence your sports performance, and of those 200, there are about 20 that commonly crop up among athletes, and that's at the elite level. Now, that's different kinds of things that it could affect, but when it comes to speed and fast twitch muscle fibers, which is what you need for endurance sports like cycling and long distance running, that is where we find the speed gene. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the test, the research that went on, and it's from Exeter University. So they ran an 8-week test and the participants had to run 3 times a week. Now, over an 8-week period running that much, a normal rate of cardio improvement would be 10%. That's your respiratory fitness. But levels actually varied, of course. Some people showed no improvement, some showed 5%, some showed 10%, but there were a small group of people who showed 20% or more improvement. Why? Well, they ran a genotype analysis on all of the participants, and what would you have it? Those people with 20% or more on the improvement had the speed gene, most of them. So what this shows is there are some people that have the genes but not the mentality, so they don't run. You have some people who run, they have the mentality, but they don't have the genes. And then you have people who have neither, and they're just terrible at running. But then you have people who have both. So they have the genes, they have the mentality, and that is a pretty good recipe, along with loads of environmental and lifestyle factors that can make you an elite level athlete. So your genetics do help you be classified as born to run. Okay, now this is a bit of a side story leading on from that, but scientists, they analyzed 14,170 people, all with major depression disorder. And this is from 218 separate trials around the world. So nowhere geographically, or it was really spread and using different universities, which is why it's not attributed to any one university. But they ranked different forms of exercise to see how effective they were at treating depression compared to existing treatments. And what does that mean? Well, it means that regular exercise is found to be more effective at treating depression than SSRI drugs. Now, some people will be skeptical, and of course it can't help everybody, but they do have numbers to back it up. So exercise showed a 63% improvement with the positive health benefits that come with it, while the SSRI drugs saw only a 26% improvement, along with risks and side effects that come with medication. Now, in the UK alone, 14% of people are on antidepressants. That's 8.5 million people that could just introduce more exercise to their lifestyles and perhaps reap the rewards. Now, it won't help everyone, but, it's worth a try, right? And that's not me saying that. That's the National Health Service. It's health charities, mental health charities, physical health organizations are all saying the same thing. We can tackle many of our psychological problems just by moving more and not getting caught in a spiral of self-pity. So if you're not feeling great, you're having a tough week, a tough day, just having a bad time, try and introduce some exercise to your life and see if it helps. Good luck. Look, I'm not qualified to give medical advice, but neither is ChatGPT, which leads me into our next story. How would you feel if you found out that your doctor was loading up ChatGPT or some AI equivalent to diagnose and treat patients? I'm not sure that I'd be quite so happy about that. Unfortunately, we've already arrived there. First, it was lawyers who were convinced that ChatGPT could help them win cases, except they didn't, they lost. And now doctors are turning to ChatGPT. So it almost seems like a matter of time before a death or some big malpractice event happens that just explodes. Now, AI needs regulation, and everyone knows it. We have to put boundaries in place to protect people, especially in instances like this. So think of it this way. Medical industry regulation, it's complicated. There's a lot of legal frameworks and processes in place. But if you've got a respirator or surgical equipment or medicines, right, they go through all the necessary checks to make sure that they work. And then they work. They're approved. They don't change. The nature of AI is completely different. It's in a state of flux. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. That's its nature. That's what it's designed to do. So how can you regulate something that's not really identifiable? Because by the time you've described it, it's already something else. That is a big challenge here. So then the question is who? Who could even begin to take on the challenge of monitoring AI for the health industry? Could it be health schools, medical schools, academic health centers? Where would they begin? Who would pay for it? What could they even do to try and control it? This dilemma is only going to get bigger. Now, if you value your health, and we've just dropped a big realization bomb about how AI could impact you, then you might want to follow this channel because we're doing our best to cover these sorts of stories. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to all the people who have subscribed already. You're a very important part of our journey. Now let's move on to the next story. Chlormaquat. 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 No, I haven't made this word up. It is a chemical. And if you hadn't heard about it before, don't worry, because until this morning, neither had I. But it's a very dangerous plant pesticide that causes fertility and growth issues in animals. Now, it's showing up in a lot of people, to the tune of about 90% of Americans who were tested. And the question is being asked, are the effects being passed on to humans? So the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in the US, they claim that it's harmless to humans. It's not passing anything on. But other science and environmental groups disagree. They claim that similar fertility and growth issues could be happening to humans as a result of Chlormaquat. Let me tell you about one little test that they've run using Chlormaquat on rats. So it resulted in reduced sperm mobility, decreased male testosterone levels, delayed onset of puberty, and decreased weights of male reproductive organs. In 2023, 93% of people whose urine was tested for Chlormaquat came up positive. So, of course, they ran tests. And they tested all sorts of different food. And since this is used on oat crops, they tested oat-based food. And they found it was Cheerios and Quaker Oats at the top of the list for having unsafe levels of Chlormaquat. So, is there a solution? Well, number one, always be aware of what you're eating. And when you read news like this or hear about news like this, do further research, because you may be affected, you may not, you may have nothing to worry about. Perhaps the long-term effects of Chlormaquat, we just don't know yet. It could be harmless, it could be damaging us. So all you can do if you love eating oats or Cheerios is find organic equivalents, because they don't use pesticides. And that is the best thing you can do. And just Think more about what you eat and its chemical contents. And if you can make healthier decisions, they may cost more, but they'll do you better in the long run. Have you had lunch yet? Because if not, this story, on a much lighter note, might make you a bit hungry. It might, on the other hand, make you a bit queasy. It all depends what you like to eat. So scientists from Yonsei University in South Korea have developed a new type of rice, and they're calling it beef rice. So they took raw rice grains and they infused them with beef and cow fat cells. That's how they created beef rice. So it's not rice with beef, it's not beef with rice, it's beef rice. And what was once pretty much wholly a carb is now carb mixed with a little bit of protein. They're saying that it tastes nice, that it's a bit nutty, a bit umami like meat, but it still maintains the form and mostly the appearance of rice, except it's a bit pink, as you can see. Now, of course, there's going to be criticism whenever scientists try to design food, and the critics might have a point that it's 99.5% rice and 0.5% beef, so the protein content is almost none. Really, this is just a cool creative experiment, but some scientists are saying it's a step in the right direction and it could be good for the future. So in the future, when we do have food issues, if we have food shortages, the ability to create new foods and design food sources like this will prove invaluable. So kudos to the scientists for their work. Let's hope that next time the percentages will be a bit different. Good luck to them. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I know I've said it a couple of times. I don't want to be annoying. We appreciate when you do it, and we're just trying to grow. So thank you so much for tuning in to Substream News once again. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new subscribers here, and we're really glad to have you and looking forward to sharing the next video with you. Everyone, have a great week. I'm Joseph. I'll see you next time.